Good morning, afternoon, and evening to all you trail curious folks out there. Thank you for tuning in to the Busted Knees and Pretty Trees podcast, a podcast brought to you by three middle-aged backpackers with a mission to inform you about what it takes to make backpacking easily accessible and get those sweet buns out there on the trail in that backcountry. Perhaps you're listening on your drive time commute, or maybe you're in your attic wondering if that old dusty camping tent you purchased 15 years ago will be sufficient enough for a challenging backpacking trip. Well, look no further, because on today's show, the boys and I will be talking tents and hammocks for those of you who like to hang around at camp. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Busted Knees and Pretty Trees podcast. I'm your host today, Travis J. White, sitting here at the new and improved Dungeon Studio with my trailblazing brothers, Bradley Greer and Paddy Richardson. We've crossed off another week on the calendar, so tell me, gentlemen, how have you been and what have you been up to?
Shit, man. I have kind of been up to a lot and also kind of been up to nothing. We got our backyard done this past week, finished. It looks tremendous.
It's pretty sweet.
It's pretty sweet, man. And it's definitely like one of the bigger, like adulty purchases, things that we have done as a couple, as a married couple. So it was pretty substantial in like our lives. We've also been working on the basement, trying to clean that up, trying to get this studio area together. And then all the rest of it, make a third living space. So just kind of like a big week around the house, like celebrating.
An adult week. Up week.
Yeah, dude, adult week, spending more than I ever thought I would ever be eligible to spend.
Or even save.
Or even save, exactly. And it's like a bittersweet feeling because I hand over that check and I'm like, but also I can do it and it's done. Like when I walk through that backyard, I'm just like, you son of a bitch, you really rocked
Being
it,
a homeowner and like making improvements to your home and everything is such a satisfying feeling.
It really is.
And you just love being in your space more.
Yeah.
You know, you're more comfortable where you are, and just making those improvements, over time is such a great thing for a family. And
it feels wonderful.
The home grows with you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I agree.
Congrats, Paddy.
Thanks, duders.
Yeah. Bradley, what about you?
Well, not too much going on this week. The Japanese maple at my house is turning red, so that's always an awesome thing to watch happen.
That's the one you trimmed up on your own because it was getting a little out of control?
Yeah, it was getting crazy, and I almost think that I can't confirm it because they've already left the nest, but I think there was a red-tailed hawk nest in my Japanese maple.
Oh, right.
Because I kept seeing, like, there's one of those cherry trees right outside my front window, and when I come home from work, I would see a red-tailed hawk and a little chick perched next to it. So I know there was, like, a family there somewhere, and the nest is pretty big. So I'm going to keep an eye on next year for sure.
Like, how big's that nest?
I would say like the size of a baseball mitt.
Oh,
like when you open a baseball mitt, like that was the size of the nest.
That is a pretty big nest.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's pretty
that
big.
Little tree.
Yeah.
Because that's not a very big tree sitting out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it was there when I trimmed it. Because I think I would have noticed it.
You know what it is?
Because I was just looking at the tree and I noticed it. So
Brad does a lot of smoking and barbecuing.
Yeah.
That bird's probably
a lot of scraps.
I'm just going to chill out here.
A lot of scraps.
I'm going to raise my chickadees right here.
Can't
dude.
blame him.
That guy's going to leave the lid open one of these times.
But also, your Japanese maple is turning red.
Yeah.
And I know a Japanese maple, and I imagine that is one pretty tree this time of year. What about you, dude?
Well, this past weekend, I got that truck. I hate mentioning getting a new truck. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I mean, you're a show-off, so.
Yeah. But so I decided to fix up my garage because I never parked in it before. And so I got it all cleaned up and swept out, and there was some, old problems that I need to fix up. And last weekend, because I finally have a truck now, I could go to Lowe's and go pick up some lumber and, get some work done. And so, I got all that fixed up. I put up some slat walls. Brad helped me. He came over.
Cool.
got those hung, and now I got a nice little woodworking, an amateur little woodworking shop in there. And I got a place to park my truck, so I was super stoked about that.
Hell yeah.
All right, guys. I know we're all chomping at the bit to talk about tents and hammocks, but we've got a little bit of news to talk about. Bradley, that's to you.
So this first story, Paddy, it's going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah, I know it, and I know it. It's going to suck.
We'll jump into it. A famous grizzly bear beloved for decades by countless tourists, biologists, and professional wildlife photographers in Grand Teton National Park is dead after being struck by a vehicle in western Wyoming. The grizzly bear was known as Bear 399, which comes from the identity tag that biologists fixed to her ear. When biologists are trying to learn more about animals, they designate them with a specific number so they can track their whereabouts, learn more about their habitat, how far they roam, what they eat, and just generally, what they're up to. So, Paddy, you introduced me to Bear 399.
Yeah, I did.
So, do you want to give us a rundown of her history and what makes her so special?
Yeah, so Bear 399 is a mother bear. She is
Sow, I believe.
There you go. Yeah. She made it to 28 years old.
Damn.
And she still had a single cub with her, which makes her the oldest breeding bear recorded in the area.
Yeah, no, ever.
And
28.
28
that's
years
crazy.
old. But
Yeah.
what's
I don't
fascinating...
know, how long does a bear live for? I don't know.
I mean, not that long because
Really?
of predators. So a mother...
And reproducing.
Yeah,
at 28 years
reproducing,
old.
right.
Like normally, I think I drive by science. I think it's like 20 years. Like they don't live much normally.
Man,
much
I
beyond.
would highly
in my head,
doubt.
I would
Like, I think
they live to be like 50.
No, I think
don't
20
know.
is even like a
Yeah, I would say
milestone.
20 is a milestone.
Wow, I did not know that.
The real fascinating part is how she lived to be 28 and how she lived to have so many cubs or had so many cubs. And what's fascinating is that what Bear 399 learned how to do was stay close to the roads, to humans.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because male bears, Brad, what's that?
Bull. No.
A bull
goodness, I
bear,
don't
male
know.
bear thing. They will find a female, and they will, if that female has cubs, they will kill the cubs because a female will not mate with a male if they have cubs.
Right.
For like
So-
2 years, right?
Something
That's
along
2
those
years.
lines. So what the male will do will kill their cubs, and then the female has nothing left to do but to mate with them.
Brutal.
But male bears are extremely solitary. So they want to stay away from humans. So you won't see male grizzly bears up near that area where Bear 399 was staying.
So is that why you always hear the stories about, humans interacting with mothers and their cubs, and that's when it's dangerous?
Yeah. Well, most certainly. I mean, they definitely care for their cubs like any other species, the mother bear, and most often the father animal will care for their younglings.
The father of the cub won't kill a sow's cubs.
That's
if they're-
right.
If they're his.
That's right. It's just
Competing.
it's just competing. Yeah, it's predatory. It's
Man.
competing.
Oh yeah, you want your seed to go on,
But once again, the fascinating part is that the thought process is that this bear learned to stay around humans for a survival instinct, right?
Yeah.
So the reason the bear lived to 28 years old and reproduced all these times is because the bear lived and slept and did everything within like a mile radius or something like that of humans, of human traffic. And so that's what makes her so damn special, is that you can, what photographers would do, what biologists would do, is they would wait on this road every season at the beginning of the season after hibernation, and they would just wait to see if 399 was come out of the woods with cubs or without cubs, or how she would look, or if she would come out at all.
Yeah, it was like a big event.
Yeah.
Everybody was waiting to see
Yeah.
if there were more cubs.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
So it's just some of the photographs that people have taken.
Yeah, like Thomas Mangelson.
Yeah, Thomas Mangelson.
Famous wildlife photographer.
Yeah, we went to her studio.
Famous.
Patrick met him.
Yeah, I did not meet him.
Oh, man.
I wish I fucking met him, dude. Story goes,
this is a great story.
Dude, I walked into this place. I was so excited to meet Thomas Mangelson. And
Jackson, right?
Yeah, in Jackson, Wyoming.
He has a studio.
Yeah, he has a gallery. It's not a studio. It's his gallery. We walked in thinking that he would be there because everything you see, there's a PBS documentary like Queen of the Tetons or something that's about Bear 399 if you want to check it out. And so I was just super, super excited to go meet this guy. And we walked in and I looked straight down the barrel of this other gentleman's eyes that this gentleman looked just like Thomas Mangelson.
No. First, there was also at the front door of the gallery.
Yeah.
There was an easel with a poster.
Yeah.
And a picture of Thomas Mangelson.
Yeah.
And then like 15, 20 feet behind that was
this guy.
Was an employee that looked exactly like
they
Mangelson.
had to have hired this guy. This guy said he gets it all the time. I'm telling you, I know I'm nerding out on a famed photographer or photographer that we just enjoyed.
But his photography is beautiful.
It's so good. Yeah. But I definitely thought it was this guy, and I walked up to him, and I was like, "Hey, are you Thomas Mangelson?"
Well, we kept pushing you, like, dude,
go talk to him.
Talk to us. We know how much you love his shit. Go talk to him.
I was not going to at all either. I was going to do everything I could to not do it until you guys convinced me to, and I was like, "Fine, fuck
you got
it,
peer pressure."
And then when he did it, we were kind of just like hovering around in the background,
you were.
like
I could hear every word
listening
you were
to what
saying.
they were saying.
Yeah. I walked over and I said, "Hey, are you Thomas Mangelson?" And he says, No, I get that all the time and stuff like that.
Like an old dad joke.
Yeah,
like,
no, I get that all the time. And I was so convinced though that it was Thomas.
Like he was just fucking with you.
Yeah, he was fucking with me.
But so was I. Like the first two dad jokes he made, I was like, oh, he's just making dad jokes.
Yeah, right,
it really is him.
Right. It's totally him. He's just gagging with me or whatever. He'll be like, "No, I'm kidding, man. I am me." But no, he didn't, and it was a completely separate person. So fast.
He just worked there.
Dude.
It was like after a couple, because I think you kind of went on he did that like 4 times.
Yeah.
And after like 2, I remember thinking like, oh shit. How do we get Patrick out of this?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, I was.
And we just sat there and watched it go down,
just burning down in flames.
It was fantastic.
I think I just wanted it to be him so bad,
and it looked just like him.
Dude,
so.
it really did. I
nobody
feel
can blame
more
you.
justified.
Even he knew.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right, well, let's get back to our story, Bear 399 here.
Yeah, so she was hit just south of Jackson, Wyoming, and like Paddy said, she had 1 cub at the time, and they're still trying to find the cub, because because like Paddy said, she's acclimated to humans, and normally in any circumstance like this, they would just euthanize that bear.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that makes her special,
right?
Is they decided just like she's worth keeping around because she's so rare that she's still producing offspring at this age.
Well, and being around humans without attacking humans. There was a long moment in time where Bear 399 was real close to humans, would walk across the street and humans would come up to her and her cubs and take photos and she wouldn't care at all.
Yeah.
But in the probably, 10 years, in the past 10 years, there's been a couple bear attacks in that area. And so they think that maybe Bear 399 had something to do with it.
Yeah, there's some conspiracies.
There's some conspiracies that it was Bear 399.
Because they said they know what bear it was,
but they won't release the names.
They just won't tell anybody.
Right.
I could see
because
them
of how
not,
famous this bear is.
Yeah.
Because if a bear were to walk like downtown in
Jackson,
in Jackson
which
or any other town
with her cubs,
that's right. If any other bear would have done that, what the general protocol is, because that bear is starting to understand that it can be around humans and get food, which is dangerous for humans, they will euthanize that bear like no questions asked.
No questions.
But Bear 399 over a 28-year span, or probably more like 20-year span,
yeah,
once she started getting
producing.
like pretty crazy, they just potentially was, letting her do her thing.
Yeah, you can kind of, let things slide if you got a good bear out there.
Yeah, I think they've euthanized some of her cubs, right? Because they would like collar some of her cubs to track their locations.
Yeah.
Because they're interested in her offspring.
Yeah.
Which it makes sense.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the scientists are pretty interested in her and her cubs as well. So.
Yeah. So if you're interested, check out that PBS documentary is really good. They talked to Thomas Mangelson, so check that out if you're interested in more. But unfortunately, she has been struck by a vehicle.
Yeah, I am.
Which is a sad way to go for a bear that's lived 28 years.
Bradley, what other news you got?
The next story is very near and dear to my heart.
Oh.
The Grand Mesa, Unconcombre, and Gunnison National Forest, in partnership with the Wilderness Land Trust, acquired 3 parcels of private land, which is just over 200 acres, in Gunnison County, Colorado, that are transitioning to wilderness lands.
All right.
Yeah, it's
substantial.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So, like, you would think obtaining 200 acres isn't that big of a deal, right? But that 200 acres opens up way more wilderness area that was inaccessible prior to that. So that's what a lot of the Wilderness Land Trust, there's a lot of these organizations that donate money to try to buy land and donate it to the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, or whatever, like National Forest, something that is part of, to help open access to those lands.
Yeah.
Because did you guys know that there's millions and millions of acres of public lands that are inaccessible?
No. And
millions of acres.
And I think you told me one time it's because there's basically private land blocking entrance to that land.
Yeah. So like a lot of these, in this specific case, this land that was donated, they're referred to as N holdings. So some of these go way back to the mining days, and they're properties that have just been owned, and national parks or forest or wilderness areas were built around this property, and they've just been owned, passed down, sold, whatever. So some of them still have mining rights. But the problem with these N holdings is that if they're active, mining laws seem really weird. Like, I've tried to look into it a little bit.
I can only imagine.
But they're really weird. So like some of these, they can start mining in the middle of these wilderness areas without any care or concern or worry about the protected lands around them. Or they can build a hotel, they can build Airbnb cabins, they can do whatever they want. It's private land. So by like these land trusts buying this land and donating it to the government basically to protect it, like, it's huge. Because if the Forest Service saw this 200 acres come up, think about how long it would take the government to purchase 200 acres of land. Like, it'd be sold way before they're ready.
Yeah.
So these land trusts like have the liquidity, and they can purchase these lands on behalf of the government and donate to them to make them wilderness areas.
All right.
So it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that is cool. So they're purchasing the 200 acres, but that 200 acres frees up access to millions and millions of other acres.
Because sometimes, say, like, if it's national forest land or like true wilderness, and there's a river running through the middle of it, or like a mountain range that you can't cross. So half of that, whatever half's on the other side, if there's not access to it, nobody can access it except for the people that own the private land around it. So it's kind of like their own little personal property.
Yeah.
And why would you want to give that up? So it's probably hard to get, a hold of that.
Yeah. Most of you should know this, but you can't cross private land. It's trespassing without permission of the landowner.
All right, guys, you want to talk tents and hammocks?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right, so this last episode we talked about backpacks, and we're kind of on this gear kick we're going to inform you about. And today we're going to talk about tents And we have our own in-house hammock specialist.
Hey,
Patrick here.
Yeah, that's me, baby.
So, Bradley, do you want to get us kicked off on what kind of tents you want to bring out when you're backpacking?
We can start by breaking it down with the main parts of the tent. We'll go into the different types of tents, but for the most part, these main parts kind of apply to every tent. So you have a rain fly, which is the outer shell, keeps rain out. Then there are vestibules. Paddy, when you first started looking at tents, did you have any idea what a vestibule is?
No.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. But they are awesome to have in a tent.
Yeah. I think they're an amenity that is nice to have if you have the energy like you two to put the vestibule in.
Well, you still had a vestibule in your tents.
Just like the dry space between the door and the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I agree. Yes.
So that's what a vestibule is.
Oh, well,
it's almost like a little foyer into your tent.
Yeah, I guess I had in the tent that I ended up having to buy, it also came with like a tub for the vestibule. So I guess I got confused for just a second. It was, I didn't put it in. I was like,
a tub for your vestibule?
Yeah, it's strapped, I don't know. Yes.
Like a plastic little thing?
No, it was the same material as the tent, as anything else, but it was like this kind of tub that sat on one side of your door in one of the vestibules. Yeah. Your vestibule on your tent, though, is fucking killer. It's killer.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is cool, dude. It's like a little 3-season room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, on a backpacking tent to have like a shaded area like that
He can
has
sit underneath his chair.
So what we're saying is I have a big Agnes copper spur tent. And so the vestibule is if you have one or two doors on your tent, the vestibule extends out and gives you like a little, I'd say maybe 3-4 foot space.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's kind of like your entrance way into your tent. So you like at night, depending on where you're sleeping at, like where location wise, if there's little critters that'll chew your stuff up, you can leave your backpack in your vestibule, your shoes, stuff like that, kind of clean clutter up inside your tent.
It's like a little carport.
Yeah.
On your house.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Carport. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
It's out of the rain. It's out of the environment, but it's still outside. So, like my tent, what they're talking about is I can unzip half of the vestibule and basically make an awning with my trekking poles. And it gives you shade, gets you out of the rain. If you want to cook and it's raining, it just gives you like a nice little shelter. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really nice amenity, I think.
Yeah, I don't know I necessarily need something like that, but I like mine where it's just kind of the shape of the rain fly.
Yeah.
And it kind of
I
just
think
sticks
it's one
out
of those
on
things,
all sides. But
like 9 out of 10 times I'll never use. But
Yeah,
that one
yeah.
time that it's like nice, it'll be worth having.
Yeah.
Because it's not
especially
like
when the
it's,
sun's
it's
beating
not
down
like
on you.
yeah, it's not like anything extra that it's like an option you can do when you're sitting in your tent.
Yeah, it's
Right.
pretty cool for sure.
Yeah. So the other thing, I never knew what guy lines were either, really, until like a year ago. I've always heard the term guy lines, but I never really messed with them. So guy lines, like I said earlier, the rainfly helps with moisture control. So the guy lines also help with moisture control. Most of the time, probably 75% of the time, you'll never need guy lines, but they really help stabilize your tent if it's super windy conditions. Because it's basically just extra strings and ropes that pull the rainfly taut and keep tension on everything.
Yeah, like in between where you stake it on the corners.
Yeah, like it just supports the structure. But it also can give you a little more headroom depending on your tent because it's pulling your rainfly out further, which can like help pull your inner tent out further and just gives you a little bit more headroom.
And it gives you a little more airflow because you have a little bit of space between, that tent part and then your rain fly.
Yeah. And that kind of goes into like moisture control because if you're sleeping in your tent, so most backpacking tents are the inner tents like mesh. Then you have the rain fly on top of that. And there's usually like a 2 to 3 inch air gap in between the two. So as you're sleeping at night, you're breathing, moisture's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah. You're hot and sweaty after a long day of hiking.
Yeah. So if your tent's completely sealed off, that moisture is just going to like drip back onto you.
Yep.
So most tents are designed to have that like 3-inch air gap, runs down the side of the rain fly outside of the bathtub and just drains onto the ground. So it's one thing you always want to keep an eye out for. And it's easy to do, like if your feet are pressing into the tent or like your bag's inside laying against the tent, if you're touching that outer rain fly, you're going to get moisture. Like it's going to kind of ruin the flow of the moisture.
Yeah. Are you guys like me where if I have any sort of moisture inside of my tent, I don't like it. I don't want like anything.
I kind of like freak out and try to figure out where the hell it's coming from.
I don't care. I mean, I guess I've just never had enough moisture inside my tent, luckily, or my hammock to worry that much. As long as my sleeping pad is there, I am all go for sleepy by.
Well, like there's times where I've had my feet too close to the tent wall, and the whole bottom quarter, like from my feet up, was like soaking wet in my bag.
Man.
So like if it's touching the rain fly, that can just like leach all the way up your bag.
Right.
And then if you have a down bag, you're going to be pretty cold if it's cold out.
Well, what do we hold these tents and rain flies down with?
The best thing I would say would be tent stakes.
Oh, man. What a revelation.
Yeah, that's it.
One thing I've noticed is like the better tents come with lightweight. There's aluminum tent stakes, there's steel tent stakes, and like weight's really the biggest thing. Like a tent stake's a tent stake, right? Like
Right.
Weight's the biggest thing, and you pay more for lighter tent stakes. So like I have with the Big Agnes, it's considered like an ultralight tent. So it comes with ultralight tent stakes, whereas I've had other ones come with like super heavy, bulky.
Yeah, not going to lie. The aluminum ones that are super, are they aluminum?
I think so.
And they're like these cool pony arrowhead things.
Yeah.
They're way cooler than my steel, like bent
like 90
wire
degree bent stake.
I like the stakes that the one I got was the Nemo. Those were nice. I like that like, what is it? Y kind of shape
X.
or the X shape, whatever that is. I was purposely hammering those things into a couple different ground like hardness.
Oh, geez.
And I was having fun, and they went down in there nice and easy. So
I think I saw those, and I think those are the same ones that come with the, not the same exact ones, but like the same style that come with the Big Agnes. And they do, like, they can handle pounding with the rock. They just kind of mushroom over a little, but they're kind of almost designed to just take a beating.
Oh, I was beating the ever-loving heck out of these
I'm gonna
things with some
be
rocks.
honest with you guys. My little steel, like, thick gauge wire tent stakes got destroyed trying to hammer those into the rocks in Yellowstone.
If you're in a mountain, there are a lot of rocks buried under the soil.
And they're about 1 inch deep.
Yeah.
And you're going to smash right into one.
Tent stakes are like kind of expensive, like for good ones.
Yeah, they're like $5 or $6 a piece for that lightweight aluminum.
But they are like it. I mean, after this last couple experiences, it was nice to have those, because I mean there was no worry about bending them.
They're hard to fuck up.
They're hard to fuck up, so it was nice to have that. Like, just, I mean,
and it
is something you can go like $30 and get. So in terms of like backpacking gear, like $30 is minimal, and you still have the experience of going to an REI and getting something in that for your gear.
You convinced me. I'm gonna get some.
Dude, it's pretty sweet, man. It's pretty sweet.
21st century tent stakes.
Yeah.
I guess that leads us into like the different categories of tents that you can have.
Yeah, the main three.
Yeah. So you have 3-season tents, which are most often considered backpacking tents. Those are ones that if you didn't have the rain fly on it, it'd be a totally mesh, like outer area with a bathtub. So some of them come up to different heights, like the kind of guarding plastic, waterproof plastic. But for the most part, they're all the same. And then they have a rain fly. They're built for lightweight and breathability.
Yeah, the 3-season tent is what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
That's what a backpacking tent is most often. That's generally the kind of tent you're going to find almost anywhere is a 3-season tent.
Like
that's
I feel
what
like
I carry. That's what you carry, Brad.
Yeah.
Well, that's what any camper carries.
I feel like you have
Like
to
it's-
search hard to find anything other than a 3-season tent.
Right.
The main goal is keep bugs out, keep rain out, control the wind, because you can, like Travis was saying, you can kind of, depending on how you tension the rain fly, you can raise and lower it a little bit, and that dictates how much wind flows through your tent. When you get into 4-season tents, which, like, I think you'd have to actually, like, search specifically for a 4-season tent, because those are like the high alpine. They're for extreme snow, wind conditions.
These like the Everest tents.
Yeah. Like their structures are rigid, and like the geometries of the poles are to withstand heavy snow loads and winds. They don't have a lot of mesh.
Stronger than the 3-season tents.
Like they don't really care about weight. So those are kind of hardcore tents. I don't like. I would never look at one of those because that sounds way too cold and like way too much snow for me to be hanging out.
We're
in.
middle-aged backpackers.
Yeah. The standard 3-season tent comes with tent poles, like your normal tent that you would see. Most of them now, it's kind of crazy. Like Paddy on our last trip had to get a new tent on the fly, and they're all like so easy to set up, right? Like they're self-explanatory.
Oh, it was
color-coded.
As a hammock person for almost my entire backpacking and camping life, I had to get a tent for this trip, and it was the first one I got was a Kelty Late Start 2, and that was awesome. But some tragedy happened, and there's how that goes. So then I had to turn and go get a Nemo. And it was just as easy. Like it was, I could set that tent up in less than a minute, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Fully.
Oh yeah,
with a
you
rain
were
flag.
And you did.
Every
time I got to camp.
Every time
that
I got
tent
to
was
camp,
up.
dude.
Second time you set that thing up, it was quick. It didn't.
And I'm 6'3", so for me to walk into an REI and get that tent for my second one that was long enough to fit me for a backpacking tent was pretty tight. Like, because I was a bit worried that no matter what I would have to get after the tragedy with the Late Start I would have to get something smaller.
Yeah.
And there was maybe more room in that Nemo.
Wow.
It was awesome, dude. That tent was sweet. It's still, I'm not sure if I'm going to return.
I was wondering, if it's like when you drive that freaking car for a little bit and you're like, I'm probably gonna buy this. That's why they want you to drive it.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was pretty tight, and nobody's really complaining about the price, like my wife or anything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I love you, hon. But it is a gem of a tent.
Yeah, imagine as a tall person, and I know when you were looking for tents, that was like one of your number one priorities was, can I fit in it?
It's got to be for the reason that you were talking about earlier with condensation and wetness. If I had it, most tents aren't big enough to fit me. When you go 1P or 2P, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But you can't carry a 3P or a 4P on a trail.
Right.
That would be suicide, right? So you just have to hope that there's somebody out there that makes something long enough with it's not just long enough of the bed either or the tub of the tent. It's how the tent kind of comes
loft.
straight up the loft.
Yeah.
Like some tents have that nice 45-degree angle that, the tub of the tent is 6'4", but with that angle, it's 6'1". So you're kind of screwed there.
They do like that. Seems like
it was really tight.
That's like one of the big things that most tent manufacturers advertise is like their loft.
Yeah.
So it seems like that's one thing they're trying to push further and further because they have like pre-formed tent poles.
That's right.
That you can only set up one way, and that could because they wanted to loft the tent a certain direction.
No, it worked.
That's what I love about my tent is it's gigantic.
Yeah,
it's got all the nice things, and
it's like
a little heavier,
dish.
but gosh dang it, me and Patrick slept in
Had
that
a good
thing.
night.
Yeah, no, that thing had space, that's for sure.
It fit us both very well.
That may play into the tragedy of Patrick's first tent.
Yeah, it certainly did.
So another kind of tent is a trekking pole tent. On my last trip, I had ambitions of using a trekking pole tent, but they have a lot of give and take because they are super lightweight. Or so let me start with what a trekking pole tent is. So there's no tent poles at all. I think you both saw me set this one up.
Yeah,
I did.
Try to set it up. So there's no tent poles, but if you have trekking, you have to have trekking poles to set this tent up. So the trekking poles create the loft, and it's kind of like an A-frame, and then you tension everything around the trekking poles. So while it's lightweight, it compresses super small, and you don't have tent poles. It takes a lot of practice to set them up. And like most YouTube videos that you'll watch, they're all about, this is how I changed all the tensioning cables to make it better. And like you kind of have to pretty much.
A tinkerer and somebody that just wants to fidget with shit.
Definitely want to be a tinkerer.
I was not impressed by that tent at all. That seemed flimsy and flonky. And I have it is your types of people that would be into something like that. Not my types. My types of people are, let's get this shit set up fast and make sure it's sturdy and be done. Your types of people is, no, I just want to fidget for 6 hours before I go to bed, where I've been in bed for 6 hours.
Well, and that's what, like, leading up to it, I kept setting it up and practicing, like, tensioning it. And, like, one of the cool things, like we talked about earlier, you can really adjust the height of the rainfly and, like, leave a huge gap. And it's just kind of cool to mess around with. But, like, leading into the Grand Teton trip that we did, I was kind of nervous because you don't know what kind of weather conditions, like up in those mountains, the weather conditions can change in a heartbeat. And it could be super windy, stormy. And if I didn't set this tent up just right, it would just collapse on me. But like, luckily the Big Agnes Copper Spur went on sale like a couple weeks, I think maybe a month before we went on that trip.
Yep.
And I'd been looking at that tent since 2017. But it was like over $500, and I couldn't see spending that. And I think now it's still on sale for like in the 300s.
I don't think the trekking pole tents would be so good for rocky environments.
I think
it'd be
like,
hard to get those set up.
I think those would be hard in almost every situation.
No, I mean, it's the same. Like, you still have to stake it out like you do any other tent. Like, it's not any different as far as that. You just have to be able to tension it right and like set it up right. And like you can set guy lines and all of that on those tents too.
Let's just say difficulty would increase.
Yeah, like you.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
already
dude.
difficult.
It's like you need to know the tent inside and out, like how to set it up, how to tension it. So like, needless to say, I went away from that tent and went with the Big Agnes Copper Spur.
So would you say a trekking pole tent is a 1-person or 2-person tent?
Well,
usually
it's kind of deceiving in the backpacking tent world. Because, like, when they say a 2-person tent, they mean 2 regular size sleeping pads can sit side by side with no extra space on the floor of the tent. So most everybody uses a 2-person tent for themselves. Like you guys all have. Well, Travis has like a family tent.
It's a family size.
Yeah. No, when I was looking into tents, that was actually kind of confusing when I first started getting into it, because your mentality is, I want to go 1 person because I'm 1 person,
right?
And you want to stick with that, but then you really realize how quick. I had a friend, my old backpacking partner, who originally started with a 1-person tent, and it looked more like just a glorified bivy sack to me.
Yeah, that's what they are.
It's with just like about 5 more inches of space. So watching his big ass crawl into that stuff and just grumble about it all day, or all night, I knew that it wasn't the thing. So I knew that 2P was out there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And it was like perfect.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. Like, but I do get it. It's about the tub.
Yeah.
That's how they're talking about square footage on the base of that tent, nothing else.
Yeah.
And like depending on where you're at, like I mean most places you don't want to leave everything in your vestibule. Like say the Grand Tetons, for example, there's marmots, porcupines, all kinds of little critters that'll come and just chew everything up. So you don't want to leave it all in your vestibule. You want space inside your tent. Like a lot of times now, everything I have is in my tent. I don't leave anything in my vestibule.
Oh yeah, the bottom of my tent will be just cluttered with all sorts of shit.
You kind of come up with a little system. Like
Yeah.
I know I had a little system of where everything went in my
Me
tent.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
So if you get a 1-person tent, like you have no space.
Yeah.
Would
to do
you
that.
ever, either of you, like knowing that you might be doing a longer trip, or you're just super eager to save a little bit of weight or something along those lines, would you ever or if the price was right, would you contemplate doing a 1-person or a bivy sack?
I think
No.
I would for sure.
Would you?
Yeah, because like sometimes the motto "embrace the suck."
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta make it a little harder on yourself.
Man, that
It's a
would
little
be
bit funner.
crazy.
I don't think so, because that's my one. When I set up camp, that's like my space. That's my home.
Yeah.
When I'm in my tent,
Yeah.
It is nice. Yeah.
and I think like the Copper Spur is such a good tent. It's so lightweight that even having a bivy sack, you're not going to be saving a whole lot of weight or space
Right.
because they kind of just nailed that tent, and it's a classic.
Yeah. Right.
So when it comes to buying a new tent, what sort of features would you be looking for?
Well, it seems like everybody kind of is trying to come up with like their new release tent and come up with new accessories like my awning that's on my tent. But there are like some main staples, mainly interior pockets for storage. Most tents have like in the, I don't know if you'd call it the ceiling of the tent, as it's going down, big pockets, and you can unpack your pack, reorganize everything. There's pockets in the tent. You can like I normally put clothes in my tent or in the pocket that if I need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night or get out of my tent in the middle of the night, I know exactly where those warmer clothes are and I can just grab them out. Then like in the other pocket, I just put everything else that I am not going to need just to get it out of the way. And a lot of times there's pockets right next to your head on the ground level so that you can put headlamp, bear spray, stuff that you want to access quickly. So I think that's all I have on tents.
Well, we're through the tents. What do you guys want to do? Talk about hammocks? Patrick, you're the leading expert
The
here at the
resident
table.
hammock expert.
I only
Yeah.
know about banana hammocks, not
Dude, and I bet you look great in them. Dude, so I got into hammocks when one of our friends, Brian, bought an Eno hammock years and years ago. And I was just immediately intrigued that he could carry this softball-sized thing around with another maybe baseball-sized thing around in the straps and put it up wherever the fuck he wanted and sleep wherever he wanted. And so that's when I started getting into it. Also, I was on a backpacking trip in Red River Gorge with my old backpacking partner, and we saw a young man sitting on the edge or sitting in his hammock on the edge of this place called Wizard's Backbone in Red River Gorge. And it is a stunning
That's pretty
there.
badass.
Like
I
you
gotta go
walk
to that
down
spot.
it. I'll take you. You walk down it, and it is just valley floor for miles and miles, except for this one protruding thing that you're walking on, this mountaintop or whatever. Yeah, it's just, and this guy was just sitting there. It was probably like 80 degrees up there and sunny and gorgeous, and he was there on a Saturday in this hammock. So just everything pointed to it. So I started getting into hammocks back then. So the first thing I noticed that back when I was shopping for hammocks, it was pretty much Eno, Eagle's Nest Outfitters. Eno was.
Oh, I never knew that's what it stood for.
That's what it stands for. So that was kind of like. That was, I don't know if they're the ones that like started the idea of backpacking hammocks or travel hammocks, I think is what they call themselves, but I'm not sure. I know that they're the most recognized name.
It's the only one I knew.
Right. So back then, they were about $75. I still think they're about $75. Nowadays, you can get a $25 hammock that is the exact same. We have a Happy Owl for my kid and all my nephews. That's what they get, and it is the exact same fabric, the exact same technology for a quarter of the price or whatever. That's definitely what I would recommend if you don't want like that brand name recognition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're looking for hammocks, you're going to find that they are going to be in two general sizes. They're going to be the double nest or they're going to be the single nest. It's the same thing that applies with your tents, in that although it says the single nest is really small. You know, it doesn't lend for a very comfortable sleep. You don't have that kind of wiggle room that you do in a double nest.
Yeah.
Just like the tents, where if you are a single person, you probably want to get the double nest. I've not really heard of too many people get the single nest. I don't know of anybody that has the single nest. Everyone's the double nest. I'm a bigger guy, so I like that, but even like my wife has a double nest. It's the perfect size to be able to let that hammock kind of wrap around you, so to keep off that breeze off the top of you.
Yeah.
Dude,
as you're sleeping.
For some reason, I always thought double nest had something to do with like a double cover or like rain fly or
right.
I didn't know it was like double the people.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, the double nest is supposed to be for two people laying side by side. The single nest, one person.
Like,
which
have you ever done that? Have you ever slept in a hammock with somebody else?
I've slept in like
impossible.
my backyard hammock. Oh, dude, in these hammocks, you could certainly do it. I think that's one of the biggest things I hear from people is they think that an Eno or one of these travel hammocks is the same kind of wear that you get in like a backyard fabric hammock.
Yeah.
Because you see all the videos of people toppling out. This hammock, I have never once seen somebody fall out of. Because you can move it, you can sit it like stand and sit it like pull it underneath your butt and then just sit right down and you're sitting in a hammock.
Well, I just feel like if you're sleeping in it with somebody, you're going to be like,
you're going to roll to the middle
kind of rolling
together.
over on top of them. I agree. I wrote in our notes that I think if you were going to go 3 people or you were going to go 2 people in a hammock, you'd probably want to go like a completely different style.
Yeah.
Like they do like the hammock canopies now where it straps up to 3 trees and it just makes like a super taut base.
Oh, I've seen those.
You've seen those?
Yeah, like I've seen them at campgrounds.
That sounds pretty cool.
It is super cool, especially for like camping only. But I definitely think if you're just out on your own, you want to go double nest.
Yeah.
Something else, as you're buying your hammock, you pick out whatever hammock you want. I think they're all made the same. You're going to find a lot of brands that are a lot cheaper than Eno, unless you want that brand name. But in terms of straps, Eno makes the best straps, in my opinion. A lot of hammocks, those cheaper hammocks, are going to come with just ties. So if you're like Brad and you enjoy tying knots at the end of your day around a tree and making sure it's taut and all of those sorts of things, then you'd be fine just buying the base package. But if you want to add on to that, the first kind of accessory you want for your hammock is the Atlas strap. It's non-invasive on the tree because it's longer straps as opposed to a tiny little shoestring.
So it's not going to cut to the bark.
That's right. It's not going to cut into the bark and leave scars, and any backpacker knows that you don't want to leave scars. You don't want to leave trash.
Leave no trace.
Leave no trace, exactly. So the Atlas strap is good for that, but then it also has these loops on it, kind of like a belt. So where you strap it around the tree, and then you put it in a loop, and then you tie that taut, and then it's hard to explain, but then that has loops going up it that you actually monkey strap your hammock to. So it's adjustable. You can adjust it in the nick of time to go tauter or looser if you want to use it as a chair, anything.
It just makes it much easier to hang your hammock.
So much easier, dude. I can get my hammock all the way up, including most all of my accessories, in probably under 5 minutes. Like just from it's fast.
Yeah,
So-
I know Kirsten always had her hammock up before I even like had my poles out at my tent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, super quick. So, Patrick, what would you say to be the biggest differences between tents and hammocks, other than you're tying hammocks in the air?
I think there's a lot of differences, obviously. Obviously, because one's a tent and one's a hammock, right? But I think in terms of the arguments that people have for or against them, the things that I hear when I say, oh, I hammock camp, and people are like, oh, Jesus Christ, I would never do that, or something along those lines. I think one of the big arguments that people have against the hammock that I think is true, but also just takes a little getting used to, is the fact that a tent is 4 walls and a hammock is out in the open. I think for a lot of people, especially when you're out in the backcountry in the dark, scary woods, to have those 4 walls around you just gives you a sense of, this is my house. This is my space. Nothing can bother me in this space. Although entirely untrue in nature, most everything can affect you even while you're in a tent. You know what I mean? Where the hammock, you're out in the open. You just feel more susceptible to the nature around you.
You can see the stars.
But that's the positive, is that you can see those stars. You're not worried about condensation so much. You're breathing the fresh air instead of your own breath.
CO2.
Right.
Things along those lines. So that's one of the major differences in things that people use to make their decisions off of. The second one is going to be, for me, and I think most hammockers, and when I say that, this is why people switch from tents to hammocks, is the fact that it's suspended sleeping as opposed to ground sleeping.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, you're getting rid of the worry of sticks. You're getting rid of the worry of stones. You're getting rid of the worry of your angle that you're sleeping on. It takes, many times I've been out in the backcountry, and the angle of where I'm supposed to be sleeping is it's a pain in the wazoo, and a hammock just gets rid of that. Now, granted, you do have to have 2 trees,
right? Yeah,
but it gets rid of that. And with those Atlas straps, you could have 2 trees that are 40 feet apart and still be able to put up a hammock. So that's the negative sides of the tent. The positive sides to me for the hammock, that suspended sleeping, when you have been backpacking and feeling the grunt of the backpack on your shoulder, the feet underneath or the ground underneath your feet, just being tired and exhausted, and your bones are sore, and then to be able to sleep 4 feet above the ground and be swung back and forth by nature's wind, and all those things, is just, if you haven't done it after a backpacking trip, you should do it. And then my thought is, you're going to immediately figure out a way to switch from a tent. Yes. No doubt about it. So that's just a massive deal for people, and anybody that I know that have switched from tent to hammock, that is their selling point.
I'm on the verge because I feel like I would be okay with that, without having the big mansion tent out there.
Yeah.
Just hearing about the guy at Wizard's Backbone. What was it called?
I can't.
Yeah,
Wizard's Backbone. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Just hearing about that dude. Because you can chill out at camp and be sitting in your hammock.
Hammocking is a way of life, brother. And
I've never done it. For the record,
I have 4 of them right there on the wall.
Yeah, I see 'em.
And I think you would really enjoy jumping into one.
They're just tiny little balls.
They're
hanging
cocoons.
Yeah.
So
from the wall.
Yeah, they're tiny. So
they take up no space.
So then that leads me to one of the other reasons why you'd switch, is because I was in a pinch to get a tent this last time. I had to spend over $400 for one, right? Where if I was in an area where I knew that I could hammock camp, I'd be $75 at most in for a hammock.
Now, with the Atlas straps and everything?
With the Atlas straps and everything. Right. So you have your sleeping space. Now, that leads me to my next part, is the accessories of a hammock. And some of these accessories, or one of them specifically, is the most important thing. And since becoming a hammocker, and you guys saw it on the trail,
yes,
that if you do not have this, you are going to be in trouble, even when you think it's going to be hot outside.
Are you talking about the quilt?
I'm talking about the hammock quilt, dude. I have been outside in the dead of winter, in the dead of summer, and my butt and my back, because that fabric of the hammock is so thin, even the warmest of breeze for 8 to 10 hours or whatever that you're sleeping in a hammock becomes chilly. And once that chill hits you, it takes over, dude. It is impossible to get warm.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's warmer than 97 degrees, it's gonna take heat from your body.
That's right, exactly. And it is impactful. I mean, I made the mistake of not having a quilt a couple of times, thinking that I could do something different. Like I remember I tried doing a sleeping bag liner, thinking that if I just add more layers to my sleeping bag, no way.
So is the quilt like a liner though, but it's like down?
No. Well, yes, in terms of like maybe the fabric.
So you're still in a sleeping bag on top of the quilt.
No.
Okay.
The sleeping bag you're inside of. And then you lay down inside of the hammock, and then the quilt straps onto the bottom of your hammock.
On the outside?
On the outside.
Oh.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So that strap, so you have your monkey straps where your Atlas straps are.
Yeah.
You put your clips on right where that Atlas strap is, where your hammock is, and then that thing, generally some of them come with clips or ways to like attach it to like the rim of your hammock, but it lines the entire underneath of your hammock.
Out of the dozen times you've told me about hammock quilts, this is the first time I realized it's on the outside.
Yeah.
Because that's what the whole time I was wondering, like.
I was thinking like grandma's quilt.
That's right. You think quilt and you think a blanket.
Well, and I thought you were laying on it, and I always thought like if you were laying on a quilt, like a down synthetic, whatever the fill is, like you're ruining the loft of it, and you're not getting the benefits of it.
Right. No.
So being on the outside makes perfect sense.
Being on the outside of it.
Yeah.
So, and it is such, I mean, I tell the story all the time of when we went up to our property in northern Michigan, and it was whatever degrees outside, and I woke up and the news said there was 69 inches of snowfall that night.
69?
69.
You sure about that?
I know. It's
sure
a fun
about
number,
that?
but it was
that.
That's like
Shane, Mike, and Andrew Warren were with me, and they were out there too, and it was 69 inches of snow, and I'm telling you, I slept like a child, and I laid there. Back then I was still smoking cigarettes, so I was smoking cigarettes, and I also had
6 feet of snow.
Just, dude, I'm telling,
5.75 feet of snow.
It was that.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
I
guess in northern Michigan, I believe
it.
it.
Attest to the story. I feel like that's a lot, but I'm also trying to figure out, like, because I'm in a hammock, so it was under tree cover. I'm not sure.
And like, northern Michigan, like that's
my car got stuck at the. Anyway, I don't know. If
saving the emails.
If any of you three dudes are listening, you email us and you confirm my story of 69 inches.
So, Paddy, what happens when it starts raining when you have your hammock hanging in the tree?
Well, okay, so the hammock quilt is bar none the most important accessory you want to have. It's going to be roughly the same price of a hammock. So you're going to spend $75 on the hammock. You're going to spend $75 or even a little bit more for like a better one or a better brand name. You're going to spend more. But so those are your first two pieces you want, along with the Atlas straps. So with rain, with inclement weather, it's the same thing as a tent, right? So you're going to get a rain fly. The rain fly is a little bit different on this in that it's almost more like a tarp that we've all set up like a makeshift tent between two trees with a tarp and some string. That's the concept. But just picture that with a hammock strapped underneath the top part of where you have that between two trees. And that's what a rain fly is. But obviously for backpacking purposes and things along those lines, you can get a rain fly that is in this, lightweight, not a tarp is what I'm saying.
Right. You're very much convincing me to try out the hammock because it sounds pretty cool. As long as I get a quilt.
And you have to remember that all of these things clip into that Atlas strap. So that's why the Atlas strap is the first thing still, because of that loop that your hammock I call them monkey clips. I'm not sure what they're called, but I call them monkey clips. It just clips right into that one loop. And then every other one of these accessories will end up clicking right into that loop as well. So it's just boom, boom, boom. Although you're talking about 3-4 accessories, you're talking about 10 seconds, Right. So I just want to get to the last one before we get out of here. But the last one that for hammocks is, another great reason to have a tent is to keep bugs off of you. Right. You have the no-see-um mesh that keeps anything from the size of a no-see-um to the size of a dragon. It'll keep you out of a tent, right?
A grizzly.
Well, they'll keep dragons and grizzlies.
Insects.
Dragonfly.
Yeah, exactly. I said
you
dragon.
said dragon.
Yeah, sure. But it keeps all that out of you. So when you get inside of your tent, you're nice and safe from not only the elements, but you're nice and safe from mosquitoes and things like that. So there also is the accessory to have on your hammock, bug net. And a bug net does the same thing, is where you kind of slide your hammock through the bug net, and then you clasp it on, and then you clasp the bug net on, and then you clasp the other side, and it zips up like a little door. So it gives you a 360 coverage of no-see-um mesh to keep bugs out.
Do you run a bug net?
No, I've never used one. I'm not sure what Kirsten had, but Kirsten's dad used to use one that actually came with it.
That's what I thought. When I saw her set hers up, it
right.
seemed like hers was just one unit. Like almost a tent just hanging in between two trees.
Yeah, you can definitely buy ones that are everything's attached like that for sure.
Okay.
But for me, I like being able to mix and match. Like if I know it's going to be really warm outside, I'm not going to bring my quilt because my sleeping bag will be just fine. If it's not buggy outside, if it's like fall, and that's generally when I seem to do all my backpacking like that is towards the end of the season because I'm not a hot weather guy.
And also for that reason, the bugs are all gone.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And it is just, there's something nice about just hanging out there in the open air.
Oh, yeah.
Without all that stuff. So, guys, have we said enough about tents and hammocks?
Yeah, I think so.
You want to end this episode? And
any final thoughts?
Yeah, I have a final thought, dude. I've been kind of looking into this recently because you brought it up in one of the past episodes about just your local parks and going out there and just kind of seeing what there is to be seen. And just right around me, I've been kind of looking into some of the parks that we have here and going over there and seeing what there is to be seen and walking the parks. And I've just really found that there's a lot of interesting things just in my local city's parks.
Oh, I'm always surprised about what I hear is going on around Fort Wayne in terms of parks and trails and activities to do outside. It's so surprising.
Well, I thank you for giving me that advice because I think sometimes I get caught up in these national parks and these grandiose things that I don't look right here. Yeah. So that really just refreshed my memory that I can just walk right out my back door and walk a few blocks and I'm in somewhere cool.
Yeah, there's so many things to, see locally that are really cool. And once you see them, you kind of take more pride in the area that you live in because you do have cool.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, I think this is the end of the episode. I want to thank everybody for listening to our podcast about tents and hammocks here on the
Busted Knees and Pretty Trees podcast.
That's it. Busted Knees and Pretty Trees podcast. I hope everybody has a good day.
Yeah, thank you all for your support. Follow us on all of our social media accounts. You can search Busted Knees and Pretty Trees, or most of our tags, our usernames are Busted Pretty. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, I guess X, and Instagram. So follow us, send us an email, bustedpretty@gmail.com. Any questions, any suggestions?
Please leave some comments. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, and that would really help us out a lot. Keep on sauntering.